Yo, welcome back to another episode of Plat'n That. Today we've got a little bit of a different episode actually. We're going to go through the games that I've earned, the platinum trophies that I've earned on my new account that I've been using for this channel for content creation. We're going to talk about some of those platinums. I believe I have 10 now. I've hit that first little milestone. There's also a couple other games on there that are sort of work in process and stuff like that. And then what we're going to do afterwards is we're going to roll into a bit of a channel update, sort of merge those two videos, talk about some ideas and plans I have for the channel. So let's dive into my account, shall we? Alrighty, and let's get the ball rolling here with the first game on the list, which is also not a platinum yet, is A Tale of Paper. A Tale of Paper is quite a fun little sort of clone of Little Nightmares. Think sort of side-scrolling little platformer with some sort of darker themes, I guess you would say. In Tale of Paper, it's certainly not as dark as something like Little Nightmares. In this, you're simply a little sort of paper alien dude that's trying to get home. I really liked Tale of Paper back when I played this on my old account, Symmetry. It's pretty quick. You could probably do Tale of Paper in about 2 hours, 3 hours at the max if you're really taking your time with it. It's not particularly difficult in the slightest, hence the 75% completion rate, but it is one of those little ones that I do enjoy. I did pop this in the other day just to sort of keep a trophy streak going. I've got a personal goal myself to hit 100 days with a trophy, which, if you guys know anything about sort of my work-life balance these days, is actually pretty difficult. So Tale of Paper was one of those ones where it was getting quite late at night, I hadn't played anything yet, and I was like, oh, I actually need to pop a trophy. So I just hopped in and smashed out the first one of these. I'll probably go through at some point this week and smash out the rest of the trophies. I know exactly what I'm getting with this one, and it's good fun. I do recommend A Tale of Paper. It's not difficult, it doesn't really add much to the table, but it's got quite a bit of charm, and I just like that sort of style of game. I love the Little Nightmares games, I love Tale of Paper, and I wish we did have more games like this. I did pick one up recently called, I believe it is White Shadow, which I think is supposed to be fairly similar, so I am looking forward to giving that a try at some point. We then move into the first platinum of the list in Alien Isolation. I adore Alien Isolation. The Alien franchise is probably... I mean, Alien and Aliens are in my top 5 favourite films of all time. I adore both of those movies. It's a shame they didn't make more. No, they're not bad. Resurrection's not bad, and I did really like Romulus. I'm looking forward to watching that again when it releases on streaming services next week, I believe. But Alien Isolation, it's fantastic. It's brilliant. It does go on a little bit too long, let's be real. It sort of does drag its feet a bit there at sections where you think you're at the end of the game, only to be revealed that there's an entire new couple of chapters to go. But I like everything about it. I love the Aliens AI. I think it nailed exactly what a xenomorph should be like. I think the trophies are pretty perfect for the game. This is the second time so Alien Isolation, I've got this platinum 3 times now. This is the second time I've done it legit, as in not really abusing cloud saves and stuff like that, just going through, doing a run. I was pretty confident with what I was doing with this one. Really, the only things you've really got to worry about too much are the facehuggers at certain points. There's a couple, like the one in the tunnel during chapter 12, I think it is from memory, that will pick you off really quick. But I love Alien Isolation. It was a case of this leaving PS Plus, and I sort of just used this as my, funny enough, relaxation game. After a day, I'd get home and do like a chapter or two, and I smashed this out in just shy of a week. We then get the game that had the first platinum on the account in Astro's Playroom, another fantastic one. This was a game that sort of kickstarted the return to sort of frequent videos with this channel. I did a Project Platinum for this, where essentially I went through and got the platinum and the trophies that were available in the DLC at the time. If you look here, you can see that the timestamp is the 100% was completed in 2 weeks, 2 months and 3 weeks. That is primarily because some of the DLC trophies weren't unlocked from the get-go. You had to wait about a month per DLC trophy, so I did have to wait a bit of time to get that 100%, but I do really like that. I think it's an interesting way of tackling your trophies. The only other game I can think of off the top of my head that Timegate released trophies like this is one of the DLC packs in Assassin's Creed Odyssey was essentially just a series of side quests, and they did this same sort of thing. You essentially could do, I think it was one per week, a new quest to be done, and this was sort of in build-up and preparation for one of the major DLC launches. I think it was the first one. I think it was the Hidden Blade, the Darius DLC. But it was a really cool way of doing things. Cat Quest is next. This is another example of a game I used to sort of pick apart trophies for my tally. I think I'm at about 60 days at the moment, and it's getting very difficult. I love Cat Quest. I loved everything about this little romp. As you can see, you can do it in about 12 hours. It took me 2 weeks because I'd sort of play maybe an hour or so each night, just sort of earn as much as I could, but it is very charming. It's an open world game where you walk around an overworld, sort of think Final Fantasy, early Final Fantasy style. You fight trash mobs in the open world, you then go into caves and you pick off enemies in there. Very cute, very charming. I do own the second game, and I think a third game also just came out, so this is one that I am sort of looking at to potentially continue this series. I'd like to complete the series for this account. We then move into Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk, I was surprised by just how good I liked Cyberpunk. I think it might actually be the best game I've played this year. If it's not, it's very close and I'm forgetting something else. It's fantastic. I'm so glad that I waited until 2024 to give this a go. I know, obviously, it came out with a absolute torrent of issues on its launch in sort of the back half of 2020, but I adored absolutely everything about it. I only had a couple of visual bugs. Usually someone's gun would be going through their chest or something like that, which was a bit weird, but I thought it was fantastic. I really liked pretty much everything about it. I would say that Night City as an environment to explore might actually be... it would definitely be one of the best open worlds ever. Absolutely drenched in lore and little details and hidden little things. It felt alive. I know CD Projekt Red's obviously very good at these because I felt very similar to The Witcher 3 when it launched. Certainly not to the same extent, in that quite a lot of that is just sort of swamps and paddocks and hills and things like that. But Night City is incredible. This is the game that sort of inspired me to start the 100% review series. It's the most recent video on the channel at the moment. I'll sort of talk about my plans with that series after we go through the trophies here. But absolutely fantastic game. Certainly if you want to hear half an hour of me ramble about this game and sort of go in depth into it, do give that video a watch. But I also must say I highly recommend Cyberpunk 2077. It is brilliant, and the Phantom Liberty DLC is even better. I thought it was expensive. In Australia, the Phantom Liberty DLC is like $50, which is too much. I'm just going to say that now. Don't pay full price for that thing. But if you're like me and you buy it on a sale, I think I got it for about $30, or dollary dues. I thought it was brilliant, and I thought it improved on pretty much everything the base game asked for. Definitely too expensive for the amount of content you do get, though, at full price. We then move into Dead Space. Dead Space will be another episode of the 100% review. Making my way through it right now. I actually just finished chapter 5. I actually just finished chapter 5 prior to recording this video. Dead Space, another fantastic one. This was a remake, obviously, of the 2008 game off the top of my head. Wow, I feel old. 2007 or 2008, not entirely sure. I would say that the remake is even better than the original. Just in terms of the sound design alone is phenomenal. This is a rare game where I don't watch anything while I play. I just play the game. Normally for me, what I do with games, it doesn't happen with every game. Alien Isolation's another good example of a game I will just solely focus on the game and get invested in. But most games, what I do when I play is I'll have a video like this on my second monitor, and I'll sort of more be listening to that while I play because I'm not too terribly interested in sort of, the sounds of cars and things, and I'll just pause the video when I get to like a cutscene or a bit of story related stuff, like a main story quest, something like that. With Dead Space, I'm locked in. I'm just with the game right the way through. I know the guide says 3 playthroughs, 40 hours. Won't be that long. You can get the platinum in half that time fairly easily. My thing is I do 2 playthroughs. I'm going to do the first playthrough on Impossible, only using the plasma cutter. It's not too difficult, just save scum a lot. And then the second one I'll use the finger gun, which you get for beating Impossible, and sort of just absolutely steamroll the game, getting the couple of collectibles that are required. And then hopefully I'll then put my thoughts together for a 100% review, and I'll put that out as well. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is next. This is a funny one to me. This is actually the second game I added to the account, and I'm on struggle street with it. I really am. As you can see, my last trophy was on the 14th of September, which is nearly a month ago, a month tomorrow. That is a very long time between trophies. I could pop a trophy really quick just to bump that up. I am like 2 cars away from getting all the export lists done. I love San Andreas. I loved this game as a kid, but coming back and replaying this story, it's bad. It's actually bad. It's funny. It starts so strong. Act 1 of San Andreas is fantastic. It builds the world well. It builds the characters well. You're invested. Act 2 and 3 is just a whole lot of side quests off in completely different areas. They are interesting side quests, and the characters are fairly memorable, but they don't really impact anything, and I think the game sort of loses its focus quite a bit in these acts. And then we come back for a 4th act that just sort of it doesn't really tie things together well. Obviously, the bulk of this act is then going in and taking all of the turfs, because that's what I want from the story. I don't know what to think about it these days. If you'd asked me before I'd returned to the game, I probably would have said it was my second favourite Grand Theft Auto. Vice City is number 1 and hopefully always will be. I guess I should go back and try it to see if I feel the same way. But yeah, I think I like Grand Theft Auto 4 now as well more than San Andreas, which that's a statement. That's a hot take and a half right there. But Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, obviously, it did a lot to propel the open world forward. But yeah, the story just kind of feels like a bit of an afterthought for most of it. And I think that does heavily affect my enjoyment of it. In terms of the trophies, it's okay. I know that it's added some trophies and a bit of game time length to what the original release of this, the PS2 port, did have. I don't really think that it affects the enjoyability too much. A lot of it's still the same sort of grind, taking all the turfs, doing all the races, etc. But yeah, it's funny how when a game loses sort of focus it then kind of loses your attention. Obviously, I will have to come back to this in that the goal with this account is to keep my percentage as close to 100% as I possibly can. I'm a channel that covers 100%, so I would certainly hope I can get it back there, and I definitely can. It's just a case of finding the time between videos and games I want to work on videos to go back and clean this up. And maybe it'll get a review, a 100% review at some point as well. It just certainly won't be in the near future. We then move to a game that I originally saw on a Plat'n That, Necromunda Hired Gun. It looked interesting, so I looked into it a little bit after that video. I'd had a few people recommend it to me, and yeah, I really liked this game. It's clunky, it's buggy, some of the trophies suck. Anything to do with the wall running and getting kills while wall running was absolutely painful, but it's good fun. It's a charming little game. It's set in the Warhammer universe, which I'll be honest with you, I don't know anything about Warhammer except that I want to play Space Marine 2. That's sort of my extent of the knowledge of this world, but it's really, really good. I really enjoyed this one, and I would recommend people play it. It's relatively short. You can see it took me 3 weeks. That's just because the amount of time I have to play games these days is a lot slimmer than what it used to be. I think my actual playtime for the game was 2 weeks, maybe even less. But it is a fantastic one. I did really enjoy this. The gunplay was very solid. It felt sort of like a clunkier version of Doom 2016, I guess, is probably the closest thing I would say the combat feels like. But this is another one that I would recommend people give a try if they do like first-person shooters. Nobody Wants to Die is next, and Nobody Wants to Die is a really interesting one to me because it was a complete sleeper hit for me. I didn't know about the game until I think I saw a YouTube short on it, and I saw that it had come out like a month or two beforehand. It was a first-person walking sim sort of set in a futuristic New York detective sort of 1930s inspired sort of setting, kind of akin to something like, say, Blade Runner. And I thought that was a really interesting premise. So I went into the game. Essentially, you are a former detective and you are solving a murder that you're brought onto to have a look at, where when people die, their brain, it's called something else in the game, but naturally I've forgotten what it is taken. Essentially, it's on a chip, and you're put into someone else's body. When you're a younger person, essentially you've got to sign up to a subscription to actually be able to use your body, which is really, really messed up. And if you fail to meet the payments, your body gets taken away from you and someone else gets to live in your body, essentially. So people of power, when they die or when their body sort of gets too old, they'll just move to a different body and sort of body hop. And it was a really interesting sort of premise. It's relatively quick and simple. It took me about a week. The game's probably about 6 hours long in total. Part of that time is because there are some missable trophies, and I did miss a few of them, so I did have to do about half an additional playthrough. You can definitely do this in one playthrough, and I think there might be guides. I think Power Picks or True Achievements has a guide. I know PSMP obviously doesn't, otherwise there'd be a little graphic here. But yeah, this is a really good one, and I do recommend this one. When I do a Game of the Year list towards the end of the year, I do predict Nobody Wants to Die to be pretty high on it. We then get Resident Evil. Resident Evil is one of my favourite horror games of all time. I will say with Resident Evil, you can see I've got 13 of 45 trophies here. I feel like you've got to be in the right mood for Resident Evil, and I'm pretty much at the end of the first playthrough, just my Jill on normal, getting all the items. I'll get back to it, I definitely will. This is one of those ones that what I'll probably do is just in between other titles, when I've got a bit of downtime, I knock out a playthrough, because there is about, I know this guide here says 6 playthroughs, I think I can probably squeeze it down to 5. I know that in the past, my idiot self has done things like the Invisible Enemies and Knife Only run with Chris, which is a choice. I think I also bundled in no healing into that as well, which that made some things very difficult. But I love Resident Evil Remake. I think it is one of the best horror games of all time. It's probably my second favourite Resident Evil game. I think Resident Evil 2 Remake is very hard to beat, but Resident Evil is also fantastic. This is another one I'm not too worried about, and I will go back and clean up probably in the next year or so. I don't really have any urgency to going back and getting this cleaned up, but I'm sure I will at some point. We then move into Scurrell. Now, Scurrell absolutely blew me away. I was not expecting it to be as good as it is. This is a game that I play purely just with some good friends of mine. Shout out to my mate Matt. We need to get back to playing this, mate, because this one is fantastic. It is essentially a Call of Duty Zombies clone. There's 5 maps now. There's 5 maps including the DLC. Each map has Easter eggs. They're all round-based zombies, and it now does COD Zombies better than COD Zombies does. If I had one complaint with Scurrell, it's that the gun variety is non-existent. There's about 12 weapons in the entire game, of which about 4 are actually viable. But it is fantastic. I really like the maps. I really like the Easter eggs. The trophy lists are a lot of fun as well. You've got to beat the maps on different difficulties. You've got to, what else you have to do? Beat certain steps without being hit. There's some time-based stuff. I think you've got to speed run the Easter eggs in under a certain amount of time. This is just one that I get back to with a couple of my friends, and we sort of just chip away at periodically. Obviously, we've not had any time in the last little bit of time. 8th of August for that last trophy. Oof, that really hurts. I know we've played it since, but obviously haven't hit any of the trophies in this point. I think a lot of the Easter eggs we're sort of leveling up and getting used to try and tackle those hardcore runs, which I do predict will be on the difficult side. We then get Star Wars The Clone Wars. I did a Project Platinum on this as well. This is a game that obviously came out on the original Xbox. I have very fond memories of this game. I used to rent this as a kid from Video Easy. That's how old I am, or Blockbuster. I think it was a Blockbuster, actually. I think it was a Blockbuster in the next town over that I used to go on a Friday, and I would get this and Halo 1 were the two games that I rented religiously. And Medal of Honor Frontline as well were sort of the three that I rented religiously from this place. I love this game. It's essentially vehicle-based combat. I think the game itself actually came out before the Attack of the Clones movie. I know that it was a tie-in game, but I know that Attack of the Clones also got 6 tie-in games that also differed on the platform they released on, because that's not confusing in the slightest. But the game itself is fantastic. It's obviously very, very simple and easy to move through. Being a PS5 port, you have the rewind feature and stuff that you can use, I believe. I'm trying to think if this one did, because it's not a PS1 title. Maybe it doesn't. I don't fully remember. Regardless, it's very, very easy, so you really don't need it. And I don't think any of the trophies are missable. Most of it's essentially just beat the game and then beat all of the optional objectives. But highly recommend this one. Do expect more Star Wars to be added to this list. I just bought Star Wars Outlaws last night. Spent way too much money on it, admittedly. And that'll probably get a 100% review as well at some point. I'm getting used to saying that name as one of the future series for the channel. We then get Still Wakes the Deep. Still Wakes the Deep is a phenomenal little horror game. This also came out this year. It's kind of, think The Thing, but on an oil rig. It's really, really interesting. Essentially, you play as a worker on the oil rig who's now trapped and is trying to get off of said oil rig before the whole place comes crashing down. There's a lot of mutated people. There's a lot of angry dudes. The trophies are essentially just get through the game, pick up a bunch of different items in different ways, survive, and then find all of your dead colleagues. That's a bit of a fun trophy. I do think that trophy was actually bugged for a bit, but I personally didn't have any issues with it. I also don't remember having to do 2 playthroughs. Did I have to do 2 playthroughs? I don't remember. I don't think I had to do 2 playthroughs. I think I got everything on one playthrough, but I'm definitely going to check that out after this video to see what that actually second recommended playthrough is, because I'm pretty sure everything's doable unless there's a speedrun trophy, but I don't think there was. If anything, the game's fairly short. You could beat it pretty comfortably blind in about sort of 6-7 hours. That's essentially what I did. But I really enjoy this one. Definitely recommend. We then get The Park. The Park's one of those sort of easy, pretty garbage horror games that I do actually low-key love. As some of you guys might know, horror is my favorite genre. I adore pretty much everything horror, even if it's dreadful. The Park is a good example of dreadful horror. You're essentially in a walking sim in the world's worst theme park. I think the theme park's got more trees and rocks than it does rides. And not much really happens for an hour. As you can see, it took me 3 days. That's literally just because, again, I was using it for that trophy streak I was talking about. I'm sure I'll add plenty more of those before I hit that 100 mark. I'm at like 60 days, and I'm hopeful. I've passed the halfway mark. The struggle is real, but I'm gonna hit that 100 days. Does it affect absolutely anything? No. I just want to see it on True Trophies, that little 100 stack. We then get Unpacking, same sort of deal if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Unpacking was leaving PS Plus, I believe, in September. I think there was like 2 days left on it, and and I remembered liking it when I did it on Symmetry back in the day. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll do this one again. It's essentially a game where it tells the story of a girl as she grows up, moves out of home, and sort of creates her own family through them moving house and unpacking various items. I always like to do this game legit. I know that one thing you can do is disable the selective placements in the settings, and you can just sort of place everything on the floor and get the entire platinum in like an hour. I didn't do this. I went in and just placed stuff where it was supposed to roughly be placed. The game is fairly reasonable where it lets you put things, but it does draw the line when, say, you want to put a your fancy Chinaware plates in the bathroom, for example. The game's just not going to let you do that. But yeah, it's a really good one. I do highly recommend this one. It is a shame that it has left PS Plus. I couldn't really justify spending a lot on it, but it is really good. I do enjoy this. And the last one here, a platinum that I earned this morning, I thought it was a fitting 10th platinum milestone, is What Remains of Edith Finch. It's also a game I am tossing up whether I want to do a 100% review for. If I do, expect that probably in the next week or so. But I smashed this out in like an hour and a half this morning. Obviously, I earned a trophy about a week ago, just as part of that streak that I was talking about. What Remains of Edith Finch is fantastic. This is a walking sim that I love. I think I've 100%ed this 3 times or 4 times because the game originally released on the PS4. It didn't have a platinum trophy, so there is that stack that is a 100%. I might go back and do it again at some point in the future if I decide I want stacks on this account. I probably don't, but it's a really good one. Essentially, you're a girl who returns to your family home where essentially there was a quote-unquote curse that involved everyone in the family dying in really tragic ways. Some of the deaths are really tragic. There is one in particular, if anyone's played the game, and I say frog and bathtub, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That one is absolutely tragic and completely avoidable, which makes it even worse. But it's fantastic. I love this one. It is very short. Might have taken me a week. In reality, it took me like 2 hours maximum. I think even less. I think my recording of the entire game this morning was like an hour and 26 minutes. But that's been every single platinum trophy I've earned on this account so far. That's in 4 months. So 4 months took me 10 platinums. That statistic hurts a lot. Obviously, as I sort of continue to build out the channel and sort of develop some video ideas and stuff, we'll be seeing more games in here. I'm definitely going to be fleshing some of this out. I have a lot of plans and a lot of games that I want to cover at some point in time. For example, I just bought Return to Moria, the Lord of the Rings game, because I watched one episode of Rings of Power, and I then needed to purge that with some actual quality Tolkien-inspired stuff. So I picked up Return to Moria. I've played that a little bit, haven't earned any trophies, but it looks really good. I'm looking at Silent Hill 2 as a potential video for the channel as well. But let's jump across to the channel updates and sort of my plans on some different series that I've got in the works, some ideas from videos that I will be fleshing out. I'll see you over on the other camera in just a second. Alrighty, I got to get used to this angle. I'm not used to the camera being up there and the mic being on an angle, so I've got to contort myself to get these videos off. I do also apologize for the mess on the shelves behind me. Top half's looking good, bottom half's looking like an absolute nightmare. I'm still getting stuff unpacked. I'm still getting stuff in for the shelves. There's a lot of sort of knickknacks and stuff in there. Probably my favorite thing up there is the Hannah Montana PSP, which is up there. It's up on the shelf. But let's talk about the channel. Let's talk about some things I want to address, some ideas and stuff that we'll be moving forward with the channel. Starting off, videos. Now, I'm going to be shelving Project Platinum. Project Platinum will no longer continue. There's a couple of reasons for this. I just don't really enjoy those sorts of videos myself. I know, funny enough, making them all these years on and off, I don't watch those sorts of style videos, and I think there are people that just do them considerably better than me. Shaz Shake comes to mind. in saying that, what I do always really enjoy and what I do enjoy making is reviews. I love to analyze things. I love to look into things. So moving forward, that's sort of the element of focus that I'm going to be having for the channel. The first of these came out last night. That's the 100% review for Cyberpunk 2077. It's probably a little bit rough around the edges, but I'll sort of ease into the style as I go. I've never really made review content prior to just sort of doing write-ups and stuff in the Discord and stuff like that. On top of the 100% review, I'm going to be doing some first impressions of some games. So a series I have in mind is sort of nickname work in progress with it is 3 Hour Thoughts, where I'm going to go in and essentially just make sort of, after 3 hours of recording, I'll make a video that sort of just displays what my thoughts are of the game so far. It's kind of a taste test to sort of see what I think of a game so far, and then it's also going to be a good sort of comparison to, okay, this is Symmetry's initial impressions on a game versus the impressions at the end on that review 100%. And I think that's going to be a really cool sort of way of adding more content as well. A thing about the sort of Project Platinums I used to make is they take a lot of time to actually do them. Getting the footage and stuff, whereas with this, I'm going to be able to sort of keep things up. It's going to work better with my schedule on top of things. So 100% reviews and like a first impressions 3 hour thoughts sort of style series will be making an appearance on the channel in the coming weeks. Dead Space is probably going to be the first game for these, or I guess Cyberpunk technically is, it's already out, but Dead Space is probably the next one. List videos are going to remain. I actually love making list videos. I think the 5 Platinums for Beginners video is probably the best video I've ever made. I'm actually really proud of that one, but they'll be being sort of added in probably a bit more frequently as well. I'll probably do quite a variety of lists in terms of completions. We might see some things like, 5 games that I haven't been able to complete, or the next 5 planned 100% reviews, or something like that. There's probably going to be a wide mix. I think in terms of videos, I am not exclusively going to do PlayStation content. As you guys know, pretty much everything I play is on PlayStation, but there is a lot of indie horror games and things like that that are PC only that I would love to cover for the channel. Some that come to mind, for example, are Fears to Fathom is a very good example of some that I would love to play that I just can't because of the fact that it doesn't have a trophy list. So do expect to sort of see some PC stuff creep in as well. Maybe some Xbox stuff, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, we'll sort of see some of those. Plat'n That's going to remain, of course. Plat'n That is a staple of the channel. There'll probably be a Plat'n That review out sort of every couple of weeks, and then if anyone who's a YouTube member wants their Plat'n That sort of review fast-tracked, then there'll be those added in as well on top of the normal ones. But the aim for videos is, at the moment, at least once a week. Ideally 3 times a week would be nice, but that sort of very heavily depends on the type of game that I'm playing at the time. If, for example, it's something like Cyberpunk, where it's a, 70 hours to 100% sort of thing, probably going to be less videos in between as I try and belt that out, but I will try and keep up appearances and stuff. I recently had an issue where the setup that I was using just stopped working. The PC that I had built, that I was using to edit videos and things like that previously, I built that in 2015, and it decided that editing these videos wasn't fun anymore, so it died. So I've rebuilt an editing PC. This thing is set up and ready to go. It should last me at least a couple of years. Hopefully, you better. You were very expensive. I will be very mad if you don't. But hopefully this thing will last me well into the future to keep these videos going. Because I love making content. I really enjoy putting this together. It's been very exciting seeing the channel grow over the last few months, and myself grow as a content creator, being able to put things together. I'm actually quite proud of that 100% review for Cyberpunk. That was the first time I've ever really put a review together. The other thing with it too is it's probably the first time I've ever made a video that long that's not been a Plat'n That doesn't have a script. And yeah, I think it turned out alright. So moving forward, there's going to be a lot of that sort of style of video where I just talk about what's on my mind. I'm not going to put together a script. I'm not going to try and polish it. I'm just going to go in. I'm going to give you my honest thoughts on a Platinum, on a 100%, on the DLC. I might even do some DLC showcases. I've tossed up doing like a, I recommend you play X. So like What Remains of Edith Finch is one that comes to mind. I'm not sure if I want to do a 100% review for that, or if I want to do just like a little 5 to 7-minute showcase of the game and why I think it is worth completing. But yeah, it's been very exciting. I'm sure what I'll probably do is I'll also draft up a text version of this sort of message that I'll put in the community posts on the channel. But it's exciting times ahead. I've been having a blast. I'm also thinking of doing some like maybe once a month doing like a Discord hangout or like a YouTube members hangout or something like that. That could be fun. I've got some games in mind. One of them that I was looking at is Lord of the Rings Return to Moria. So if anyone is interested in playing that with me and maybe featuring in a video with that, do let me know. But yeah, it's exciting times ahead. I've rambled enough for now, I think. I think I've been going for like 8 minutes. That's probably enough of my silky voice after a Plat'n That. So I'll see you on the next video. I miss you already. Goodbye.